Hello my beauty beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my smoothing and matte foundation routine. So this is a routine that I've been going to most of the time, and it involves mixing two different foundations. However, I do have some tips if you just wanted to use one or the other, that would be totally fine. But I find that mixing them together, it makes the best result for my skin. So a little bit of background on my skin. I do have oily skin. I am acne prone, as we can see these beauties here. I finally got to switch back to my regular Belief Aqua Bomb. My Sephora order came like a month and a half after I ordered it, which is insane. But hopefully these should start clearing up because I'm not using the Neutrogena Hydro Boost anymore. I think that was not good for my skin, so that's kind of a side tangent. Don't forget to subscribe because I do upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you're enjoying the video while you're watching, you can give me a thumbs up so I know. Let's go ahead, hop in. I'm going to be sharing basically my primer, my foundation, which powder I like to use, which products I find don't emphasize texture on my skin in terms of bronzer, highlight, blush. I always start by pushing my hair back. You want to make sure that there's no hair on your face that could get in the way of blending the foundation. First, I'm going to go in with my primer. I always do primer. I never skip it. I see a huge difference when I wear it and when I don't. So I'm going to be sharing two different primers that you could use with this routine. One is higher end, one is drugstore. So depending on your makeup budget, that you can choose whichever one fits better in your routine. But today I'm going to be going in with the Tarte Clean Slate Timeless Smoothing Primer. This is like perfection in a container. This smooths and blurs your skin like perfectly. However, if you are more of the drugstore type of gal, then you want to go in with the Revlon Photo Ready Pore Reducing Primer. I sometimes take this and put it all over my face and then add this just in the areas that I notice that I have bigger pores. But today I'm going to start with this. So I take a little bit on my finger, not a ton, but as you can see, I put it just right here. Can you tell the difference between this side and right here on my skin? It automatically mattified, blurred, filled in my pores. And my skin is always a little bit shiny at the beginning of the day because I do apply sunscreen. I make sure that I put this on my forehead. This helps with my fine lines, my wrinkles on my forehead. And I always make sure I put it on my chin. So I kind of start in the T-zone area and then I take the excess and just move it out to the outer part of my face. That seems to work where it really ends up covering my entire face, even though I'm only using a little bit and starting in the center of my face. All right, so now my skin is blurred and you'll be able to see this better when I put foundation on as well. I don't like the new lid. This is not better than the old packaging. So like I said, you could use the Revlon primer if you didn't want to pay for the Tarte one, but I do think the Tarte one is better than the Revlon primer, but the Revlon primer comes close. For foundations today, I'm going to mix two. So these are both drugstore foundations, so they are affordable. It's not like I'm mixing a high-end and a drugstore. Like I said in the intro, you can use these on their own. One of them is definitely more mattifying, good for oily skin. One of them is more natural, and I know that dry skin works really well with this too, but I find that mixing them together gives the best results for my skin. So I'm going to be mixing the L'Oreal 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation and the Revlon Colorstay. So I randomly came across this combination when I saw this and I was like, I haven't used this in a while and it's too dark for me. Even if I'm really, really tan, I cannot pull off the shade. It's in sand beige. I don't know why I ever chose this shade, but then this one is way too light for me right now because I am a little bit more tan. If you have dry skin, more normal skin, you can just go in with this one on its own. Even if you have oily skin, you can go in with this on its own, but I like the added matte-ness that the Revlon Colorstay gives me. This is very mattifying, really good for oily skin. So if you have more combination oily, you could just go in with this one, but I don't know, something about mixing these two is just, this gives a very soft, natural, more skin-like finish. And then adding this, it just makes it a little bit more matte. And these two together last such a long time on my skin. This does not budge. This is very long wearing. It's on my skin even after wearing this for more than 10 hours at the very end of the night, and it still looks really, really good. So I take equal parts of both of these foundations. It doesn't really matter how many pumps, it just depends on like the coverage that you want on your skin. I'll show you what they look like mixed together. It's a little runny, but that's what, ooh, This is what the foundations look like. See how big of a difference there is in shade? So I just mix the two together. You want to make sure that when you are mixing foundations, you make sure that they're fully mixed. So this seems to be pretty blended out. This is the shade that it gave me. Honestly, I think if you mixed anything with the L'Oreal 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation, it's gonna look nice. It's just a great, great foundation. So in this routine, I do use a beauty blender. I don't really find that brushes give me a better effect on the skin. I really like how the beauty blender just makes it a little bit more airbrushed looking. This foundation routine is going to give you a good high medium coverage. This is not a full coverage foundation routine. However, if you wanted more coverage, you could just add on layers. These both build very nicely. Here's how it's looking just with applying it to my cheeks. As you can see, it's pretty matte right away, but mixing the L'Oreal foundation in makes it feel more lightweight. It's not as like heavy feeling as a lot of matte foundations are. And you can see this pretty much covered up my spots right here. So if you do have acne prone skin, this would be good for coverage. When you're doing your foundation, you always want to make sure you get close to your ear, and I always drag it down like my jaw a little bit because you don't want that harsh line. All right, here is the foundation. So hopefully you guys can tell, but you cannot see my pores at all. Like they are gone. Gave me really good coverage. It has a little bit of a glow from the L'Oreal foundation, but mostly it's pretty matte right now. And what I like about that is it does wear throughout the day really well. So if you do have oily skin, it's gonna start out looking a little bit more matte, but then throughout the day it will wear very nicely, look more like your regular skin because you're letting a little bit of oil come through, but not too much to where you're like, you know, like you're wearing a dewy foundation. So next I go in with concealer. I've been really enjoying the e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer. Don't apply too much of this because it is very pigmented. This is gonna highlight the center of the face a little bit. If you blend it in, it should lighten underneath your eyes, make you look a little bit more awake. This concealer is also a little bit mattifying as well. For powder, you can pretty much do whatever. I have been really enjoying the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent Setting Powder. With my foundation routine, mostly, like I would say 99% of the time, I go in with a translucent powder if I'm doing this level of coverage. You don't normally do powder foundations unless I'm just using the powder foundation on its own. This is really where you start to see the foundation set down into your skin when you apply translucent powder. If you want a high-end version, I really love the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, but the Wet n Wild powder is really, really good. So I run this all over my skin because I am oily. I will get oily and it will slip and slide throughout the day if I do not set my foundation. So here we are. This is just after I powdered. Add some of the excess foundation that I have on my little container right here to my eyelids just to cancel out the veins and stuff. And I'm gonna set that down as well with the same Wet n Wild powder. I don't notice that this powder breaks me out or anything, which is awesome. So I think it's a good like drugstore alternative to the Laura Mercier powder. All right, so next we're going to go in with bronzer. I'm gonna take the Hourglass Ambient Luminous Bronze Light Bronzer. Just gonna use a little bit of this because my foundation's already pretty dark and matches my neck pretty well. This bronzer is really nice. It gives a little bit more of that glow to the skin, but it's not a luminous bronzer. Even though the name says luminous, it's not really glowy. It's just not considered matte. This gives a nice shadow to your cheeks. And for blush, I'm going to take the Too Faced Love Flush Baby Love blush. I think they have other shades of this. I just take normally a matte blush because I do like having my cheeks look a little bit more matte with my blushes, and then the shimmer can come from the highlight. And the last product I use is this Makeup Revolution highlighter reloaded in the shade Just My Type. I really like this. It's a good mix between a gold and a pink highlight, and it doesn't emphasize texture or anything. I usually add this down the center of my nose just to give a little bit of life to my nose, and then on my Cupid's bow. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of my makeup, and I will be back to share how everything came together, but this is the base so far. All right, you guys, I'm back. This is the finished result. This is how my skin looks. It looks literally like my skin, but better, just with a little bit of coverage. It looks very nice and soft. I one thing I love about this routine is just how long lasting this foundation is on my skin. So like I said, you could either choose one or the other, or you can combine them if you happen to have them both. Yeah, if you guys recreate this routine, please let me know that down in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience with one or both of these foundations, and also maybe some of the primers that I used. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.